Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought I would do another video talking about drones. The reason for this is because they've gone through a bunch of changes since my last video, and now, after playing a ton around the BRs that drones are at, mainly the lower echelon of the BRs, so not entirely, up to 11.0, but more around 10.0 and 10.3, all I can say is drones are annoying as all hell when you're playing nations which don't have relevant counters. And the vast majority of nations don't have relevant counters because the AAs that they've added in the areas are IR missile AAs, which is completely fine, but you can't lock onto the drones because they don't obviously have enough of a heat signature. So drones in general are something in the game which do not have a negative downside, apart from the fact that you can't cap stuff on the ground. They don't really have any repair costs attached to them. You obviously get research for them, you get a sell for them. They're basically a free way of getting access to extra RP and SL out of the game, and also doing stuff which is there. The other thing is the fact that they're just a replacement for CAS. So players previously who didn't have access to CAS elements because they didn't grind out the tech trees or didn't buy premiums, now they have a CAS element. And it's very similar to how helicopters work. They're just a lot more limited than helicopters because they only have 2 missiles. Now, the problem with this is not necessarily the drones themselves, but it is highlighting the issue that has been in War Thunder for a very, very long time. The balance between CAS and ground units is off, and it is absolutely terrible right now when it comes to the game at certain areas. In the mid-tiers, it's generally not too bad, but there are some CAS elements that are very strong, especially since they added the overpressure stuff in. If you have vehicles with a ton of rockets, it's very easy to overpressure a bunch of open-top targets. Since a lot of the AAs are open-topped, you can just fire rockets at them, destroy them, and then go after other things. Bombs also are pretty effective, but generally you're not going to be cleaning up a map with one fighter. At most, you'll probably get 3, 4, 5 kills, and since people spawn more at the mid-tiers and low-tiers, that's not too much of an issue. At the highest echelon of the game, where there's a lot of people who only spawn once or only spawn twice, if you knock them out with CAS elements, they're not going to come back, so therefore it can be completely game-changing just having one drone secured 2 kills, because that can just be 2 people completely disappeared from the map in general, instead of them respawning and other stuff like they would do in the mid and low tiers. And this could probably be fixed by repair cost changes, or less of an emphasis on but getting people to buy premiums at the highest echelons so they don't have full lineups around them. It could be solved in different ways, but at the same time it could just be solved by making it so drones are only part of the highest echelon area. Because one of the issues with the drones, just like has been an issue for the helicopters for the longest time, and also other CAS elements, if you get up-tiered, you do not have AAs which can deal with these things. So instead of having these drones be at specific BRs, they should make it so they're only at places which, even if nations get up-tiered into them, you can still deal with them at least in some way. They also have a very odd damage model where it's very hard to kill them. Basically, the most efficient way I found to kill them is by chopping off a wing, but that's not the easiest thing to do all the time. And I know a lot of people are going to talk about how, the drones are not great, especially compared to helicopters and planes, and that's true at the highest echelon of the game. If you're at 10.0 or 9.7 or 10.3 and you don't have those crazy CAS elements which are very crazy at the highest tier, then they are as good as what you have access to, and once again, they don't have a downside. The thing in War Thunder that changes the way a lot of people play is by having a downside in the game, by having something there which is kind of a negative reinforcement mechanic, usually in the form of like repair costs, right? So the idea is if you don't do well in something, you get punished, and if you do well in something, you get rewarded. That's how these games work. With drones, if you die, or you lose as SP, which doesn't really matter because of the simple fact that stuff costs so little SP nowadays, meaning that it's so much easier to get into stuff like drones and so forth. One of the big things that's also changed is they've added a metric ton of light vehicles to the highest echelons of the game. And with the airstrike mechanic, which I'm sure was designed with planes and helicopters in mind, now affecting drones, it's very easy to get a cap and then just get in a CAS element, whether it's a drone or whether it's other stuff, and just take over the map within the first 2 minutes. Every time I've been playing around those BRs, I've been playing the M3A3 Bradley, I've been playing the Type 16, I've also been playing a few other machines which are around that 9.0 to 10.0 area, and spading them, even the CM11 at 9.0, and basically the big issue is you have people who, especially at 9.7 and 10.0, rush caps with their highly mobile vehicles in an up tier, take the cap, get a kill, and then even if they die, bang, they're back in a CAS element within 2 minutes of the match starting. So you either got to put a timer on that, so you know people can't go in at the start, so therefore people in MBTs can actually have a fight, or you just need to have some kind of either increase in SP cost for the vehicles, or you get rid of the airstrike modification for a lot of them as well. The simple fact is that drones at the moment have too low of a BR ceiling that they can appear at, and also at the same time have no negative to spawn them, and they've made it easier to get into CAS elements as well. It's really obvious that when it came to what they said at the start of the year in the interview, that the balancing factor between different mechanics has been one of the hardest challenges when it comes to War Thunder. I think it's very obvious to pretty much everyone that's true, and I just really wish, I really wish they would just stop adding new stuff and just wait for a little bit, and not necessarily just do like the whole quality of life improvement patch or anything like that, but just let things settle for a little bit. Because right now, when it comes to War Thunder, the meta and everything hasn't settled properly in about 5 years. And with the constant rate of changes and things added, I don't think it's going to change at all. I think it's just going to keep morphing, and there's just going to be one OP thing over the next, and the balance is going to go out the window. I also think there's just way too many factors at the highest echelon of the game now to ever think that it's ever going to be balanced anyway, and also with the simple fact that it can't be balanced because of the fact that you have a top BR, and that's always going to play its BR or below instead of get up tiered as well. So the whole thing's just a mess, but it's not as if drones are helping in this regard, and it would be nice to see them nerfed once again. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.